Hi guys, welcome to our channel, Exploring It All. I'm Miraculous Girl. Join me and my dad while we explore subscription boxes, the outdoors, gear and equipment, and other fun things and places. Before we get started, hit like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Ding! Thank you for watching.
Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, Miraculous Girl, and thank you everyone for joining us again here on Exploring It All. So today, I want to give a big shout out to Brandon Currin1776 from BattleBox. He was doing one of his live streams, and that's one of the things we'll touch on, but I won a prize. And I won a prize just by making a comment, answering a question in one of his live streams. So if you are a subscriber to BattleBox and you do not if you're a subscriber to BattleBox, join the members only group on Facebook, and they're doing a lot of giveaways and things. So join the members only page if you're a subscriber. They're giving away all kinds of stuff. And you don't really have to do anything other than comment or suggest things or whatever. Lots of different administrators and stuff from there are posting different giveaways and stuff. So thank you, Brandon Currin1776 for that. Now, I'll show you guys what I won here at the end of the video, but the main purpose of this video, other than saying thank you to all of our veterans families and veterans, and I will say to the families of our fallen heroes, because Memorial Day is about those who didn't come home and in our armed forces, but I'll even expand that in to those who served the country and gave their lives for the country, both in foreign wars and within the own communities, responders and stuff. Remember them and their families in your prayers and your thoughts this Memorial Day weekend. Now, the other purpose of this video was I got some requests to elaborate a little further on why I won this prize, or the story that led to mine. Now, the question was, what is the scariest thing that has ever happened to you? For me, the scariest thing that's ever happened to me was when I saved a 1-year-old child who had drowned. And I get a little emotional on this, and so I may edit some stuff out. We'll see. Anyway, this is that story. So in April of 2014, I was sitting in my backyard. It was around 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was smoking a cigarette, because back then I smoked. I quit quite a few years ago now, but I was sitting out in the backyard smoking a cigarette, and I heard a woman scream. Now, my initial thoughts were, this is a domestic issue. I'm not getting involved. Well, I don't know, another 15, 20 seconds later or so, I heard a second scream, but this time the scream was for help. So I was like, I got to go find out what's going on here. So I went through our house. I went from the backyard, went into the house, went out the front door, walked down the street, and we lived on the house just north of another side street. Our house was one house over from the corner, and on the corner to the right of our house was facing the house, we've been to the left, but there was another house, and that house faced a cul-de-sac street. And that cul-de-sac had maybe 7 houses on it, so not a big cul-de-sac. So I walked out of the house and turned to the right and headed down to the cul-de-sac, which is where the scream had come from. And when I got to the corner, and I can't say that I was running, but I was walking at a brisk pace. And I got to the corner, and I think I heard additional screams for help at this point. And when I got to the corner, there was a woman standing in the driveway at the end of the cul-de-sac, holding an infant. And she screamed when she saw me and told me to call 911. So, like I said, it was 10:30 in the morning. It was no clouds in the sky. And I looked down at my phone. I could barely see the screen. I pulled up the phone. I dialed 911. As I was walking to her, and I don't even know if I know they answered, but I don't know what they said. I'm sure they were listening, though. But when I got to the woman, we reached each other, and she came toward me, I came toward her, and we reached each other in the middle of the street, and she's holding this 1-year-old infant. I later found out she was 1 year old. The woman's name, I later found out, was Janice, and the child's name was Claire. So she's holding Claire, and the baby's blue, like Mystique from the X-Men, blue. And she's wet. And the woman said, I found her in the pool. And I grabbed the baby from her and took her over to the closest yard and laid her down in this grass. I remember the grass was really tall, that tall. Laid her down. It was very green grass. Laid her down in the grass, and I looked around real quick and realized there's nobody else there. You're the one that's going to have to do this. And they always say you revert to your lowest level of training. And I have had CPR every year for the last 25 years. I'm a retired correctional officer. And we would do an 8-hour CPR training course once every other year. And in the in-between years, we would do a 4-hour refresher. So, and one of the things they always taught us was, we're not teaching you CPR and stuff to save an inmate. We're teaching you CPR to save your family members or your loved ones. So pay attention. Anyway, I just remembered I tilted her head back, made sure her airway was clear, and I remembered I have to cover her nose and her mouth with my mouth and to give small puffs of air so I don't blow up her lungs. And that's what I started doing. And I did this for 30, 40 seconds, I don't know. And then I would stop and listen, see if she was making any sounds. I did it again. And then her mom's over here screaming for Jesus not to take her baby. And by then there was more people around, and there was an older gentleman standing next to me, and I looked at him, and he was on the phone, and I asked him if he was talking to 911, and he said yes. My phone was laying there, and the 911 was on there, but I wasn't talking. But he said he was talking to him, and he was telling him what I was doing and stuff. So then I went back to giving her little puffs of air, covered her nose and her mouth, and give her little puffs, and kept giving her little puffs, and she wasn't really responding to that. And so I remembered the 2 fingers on the chest for CPR, and I started doing compressions on her chest, and then I started giving her little puffs. Now, you're not supposed to do them at the same time, but I was. And you're not supposed to do it that way. It's kind of counterproductive or whatever, but I was just almost panicked, but I was doing it. And then I got to a point when I'd stopped and listened, and I'm giving her the compressions, and I stopped and I listened, and she gurgled. And so then I started giving her more puffs, and then eventually she started to kind of gag a little bit, and I turned her a little bit to the side, and she threw up a bunch of water, and she threw up a bunch of, it was later found out it was watermelon, and she started crying. And I've never been so happy to hear a child cry in my whole life. So I kept her there on the side. Her mom started to pick her up, and I told her, no, put her down. And I kept her down, and she kept crying, and I let her cry because to cry, she's inhaling, she's exhaling, she's crying. And I'll tell you, the color changed. She wasn't blue anymore. She kind of was a reddish, pale. But she wasn't blue, and that was good. By then, a police car had arrived, and then an ambulance, and then another police car, and a fire truck, and another police car, another police car, another police car. We lived in a country club at the time, and so the response was pretty good. Some areas of town, they respond faster than others. But it was absolutely terrifying. I remember once she started crying, I looked around a little bit more, and there was a little girl standing there who was about 5 years old at the time. And I asked her, I said, is this your little sister? And she said, yes. And I said, well, don't worry, she's going to be fine. And she's crying. So the mother and the 2 daughters, they took her in the ambulance. They put the little girl on oxygen. the baby and put her in the ambulance, and they took her off to the ambulance. The one next door neighbor told the police they would secure the house, and the police asked a few questions and things of that sort. And I will add in here, from the time when I walked out, I went back to my house after it was all done, smoked another cigarette, and I reviewed our security cameras because they showed the street, and I could see the corner from the security cameras in our house. And from the time I walked out my front door till the time when the first police car showed up was 7 minutes. Of course, by the time the first police car showed up, the baby had already been crying for a minute or two, because I kept wondering, when are they going to get here? When is there going to be backup? But I can tell you that at the time of this going on, it was the most terrifying thing, because I thought that little girl was going to die, and it was going to be my fault because I didn't do it right. And it was the most terrifying thing that had ever happened to me. The only other thing I can ever think of that even comes close to that is when my daughter was born, but we were in a hospital with tons of medical people there, and everything went fairly normal. But it was still a little bit scary. But on this, everything laid on my shoulders. It was all up to me and nobody else, and it scared the crap out of me because I thought I was gonna screw it up. Anyway, so I have to give a big shout out and thank you to Brandon Currin for sending me this. And before I even go with that, the aftermath of that is a year later, while I was in the middle of child custody battle, I went to Sacramento because I was awarded a Bronze Star from the state of California in the Medal of Valor ceremony. And I did receive a certificate from the United States Congress, and I received this one from the state of California as well. And I'll post some pictures of the medal and stuff here in the video somewhere. In the meantime, big shout out and thank you to Brandon Currin. And I think he instantly regretted asking the question, because I think he was looking for more survival stories and stuff. But a lot of times those scary things don't necessarily involve your own survival, but somebody else's. But I won this Humvee shovel. I received this in a previous mission, but now there's two. Anyway, it comes in a pouch. It's got Velcro. It's got a belt loop, or you can use strapping or whatever and attach it to packs or whatever. Great item to keep in your cars and stuff. This folding shovel. Really heavy duty metal. It is adjustable. You just screw and this is adjustable. And I'll adjust this down here. You screw this down. And I got it at an angle here to make it easier to see. You got a nail puller in the end there. You got serrations on it. Not for sawing, but it's going to bust up wood or whatever. I suppose you could sharpen up the edges on this if you really wanted to. But your sharp point up here, and again, you can file that down if you want to make it sharp. You got ABS plastic here and here. This is a strong, heavy-duty shovel. I've had a little bit smaller one, but much lighter weight materials and stuff, and I will tell you, it did not hold up the way this one will. So I won this. Big shout out. Thank you to Brandon Currin for that. And because I appreciate it. I've won something here and there once in my life, but not very often. So I think it's pretty cool to win something. But all right, guys, thank you for spending your time with me. I appreciate that. So there's a story for those of you that wanted to know, and there's a story for those of you that didn't want to know. Again, guys, have a great Memorial weekend. Be safe. Be nice to each other. Hit like, subscribe. Remember, be nice to each other.